I guess I can shortly start, slowly and shortly. So first of all, welcome again, everyone, to our webinar series of More Than a Circle. This is our third. I'm Mirem. I am the head of marketing at Storyly, and actually I will be leaving the floor shortly to our amazing moderator and panelists to discuss a question I think we all have asked ourselves in our business life. Should we build or should we buy a marketing technology? So just to give you a glimpse of what the discussion will be around, we will be trying to cover the pros and cons of both options, how to find the best one with the highest ROI, the common mistakes that the companies and the teams usually make, and the factors that we all need to be considering before making a decision, and of course, the importance of taking a future fit approach. So without further ado, I would like to give the microphone to our dear Elvin, who is the director of MMA Germany, as our moderator. And thank you for agreeing to be our moderator today, Elvin. And also, let me just introduce our panelists, which one of them is Doruk, who is the head of GrowtHUB at NeoHUB, and of course, our dear Alper from the S-Squad, who is the developer evangelist at Storyly. I hope you would all enjoy the talk, both our attendees and our panelists. So I'm leaving the floor to you guys now. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you, Iram. It's the first time I've been called amazing moderator, so thanks for that. I'm really sorry if there's any background noise. I have two cats at home and they're kind of fighting in the back, so I hope it doesn't bother you too much. So let's get started. So today we'll be talking about MarTech, and I want to start with some background information and some numbers before we dive into the topic. According to the State of MarTech 2023, the size of global MarTech and sales industry continued to grow in 2022. Actually, the industry is valued at a whopping $508.9 billion. And it's been growing steadily with the internet. So you might see Scott Brinker's MarTech landscape graphic already, which showcased the industry's size. And the latest version from 2022 had over 8,000 vendors on it. But there's, of course, still debate going on. Should we buy the MarTech in-house or should we have our resources to have full control of it? So it's a tricky decision to make, and there is no one size fits all answer, and there are pros and cons to both approaches. That brings me to my first question to Alper and Doruk. To buy or not to buy, to build or not to build, that's the question. And it seems like a never-ending debate in every industry, and it's no different for MarTech as well. So let's start with Alper. If you were one of your customers, what would you do? What would you think before you make this call? What are some common mistakes when deciding to build or buy MarTech?
Thank you very much for the question, Elvin. Very excited to be here. So if I come to your question, so the clarifying the requirements of regarding functionality, look and feel, the main KPIs for the success are the must, in my opinion. It would be better to have all the possible use cases that you have on your mind ready. That's also important. Also, you should set an expectation around the time frame and the workload that should be allocated to the project. Also, like making sure that all the parties are involved in the buying process is also a must. So recently, we had an amazing call with Coca-Cola, and they had all the materials ready in the call, including mockups on Figma, the information of how many dashboard users there will be, how many countries they are willing to start with, so that we could accelerate the process and agreed on what we can offer to them and how they can use it. So like showing up in the meeting unprepared is the easiest and the most common mistake that I have encountered. Yeah.
Thank you, Alper. So now I want to ask the same question to Doruk. Doruk, I've known Doruk for a while now. He has had different roles, both within the MMA and with different companies. So Doruk, as a brand and an entrepreneur, if I may say so, for NeoHUB, what's your point of view? Like, how can from your view, businesses make the right decision when deciding for MarTech?
Thank you very much, Elvin, for your introduction and the question also. And also an additional information, in my current role, I'm a MarTech advisor. So that question is shall be answered by this expertise actually. So I would like to start with 3 functions that we need to discuss. What are they? First of all, organizational needs. Just like Alper's example about Coca-Cola, we need to know the organizational needs, and also brand need to be aware of their needs. What is the desired functionality? What is the level of customization do we need, or the integration needs with other systems if we have already a technological stack? So also, additionally, we need to mention about the resources. If we are talking about a buying decision, we need to be aware of it's a process for the time-consuming process, and also resource-intensive process. Also, if we are talking about buying something, we need to clarify our budget and expectations also. So also, for the functions, I mean, we need to be aware of our long-term goals. We need to design our go-to-market strategies or differentiation strategies, or we need to be aware of the size of our organization or growth plans. So if we make a pros and cons analysis in parallel with these functions, we need to be aware of if we are buying something, the pros, actually we can immediate access to a pre-built existing solution, and it has a proven track record, you know. And also, we can reduce the need for ongoing maintenance and specialized expertise, and we will lower upfront costs. If we are talking about the cons to buy decision, actually, we would have some limited customization and maybe limited integration capabilities. And also, we will have potential costs or licensing or support fees, you know. If we are talking about building something in our solution, I mean, actually, we will have and that's the most attractive part about building something decision, we will have the greater control over the customization and integration. And also, in the long run, maybe I can say, it can be a potential cost saver. But it's a time-consuming process, as I mentioned before. It's a resource-intensive process, and also it would bring some higher upfront costs. I mean, setup and etc. And also, we do not forget this. This is the last but not least. We will need, if we are talking about building something, we will need a specialized expertise, and we will need an ongoing maintenance. So these are the cons for the building decision. Thank you very much.
So basically, both of you saying that there's no like one formula for everything, obviously. And from you, so I get 3 points. So organizational needs need to be pointed out, resources of the company and the business, and the long-term goals. So if I were to highlight some points, I took notes. Okay, so I'm gonna get to my second question. So you can build a car, but if you're looking for a combination of superior performance, great design, and innovation, you go to a brand with a strong heritage and experience in producing cars, like Ferrari. It's all about what you can put versus what you want to get. It's all about the return on investment. How can companies get the most bang for their buck when it comes to MarTech? What's the secret trying to find the best option for the best ROI, return on investment? So Doruk, do you want to start?
Yes, of course. Actually, that's a great question because also the car example is always, I am also applying to make it more tangible in the minds. So in here, actually, the question, in other words, maybe we can say, how can we get some efficient results with MarTech solutions, or the decision process on the buying, or still the building processes. So first of all, as I mentioned about the needs scope, we need to always start clarification of identification of the goals and the objectives. That's the first point. For example, if you talk about the Ferrari example, are we looking for a car that is luxury and posh, or are we looking for a car for our hobby, for example, camping or something like that? So that's the initial point actually that we are starting, and also the budget one, because that is always the cost issue is always in our scope. It should be, do we have a budget for the Ferrari or not? That's another question. And we need to look for scalability and flexibility. These are another issues, because we do not want to be dependent on some solutions. We need to always have an exit plan. So for the future, if we would like to make an exit, because that's also another crucial point, working with third parties, do we have an exit plan? Are we dependent or not? These are the questions that should be answered. And also, I would like to come to your car example again. If we have a Ferrari, but if we cannot drive this, actually, this is meaningless, you know. So user adaptation, in other words, we can say, the tools, user adaptation capabilities, or the convenience of the dashboards. What is the level of these questions, answers? So these are also another important points. And always, we need to figure out the questions about the measurement. We need to measure the results. What do we invested, and what is the ROI? In a nutshell, to make a summary, I would like to say, especially also for the evaluation for this of the scope in the to get the best ROI, actually, I can say that ease of use for a MarTech solution is really crucial. The cost issue, as I said, and also not only about when I say cost, please don't think just only about the licensing fee or the support fees. It's not only covering these issues. It's also figuring out the issue about, for example, if we are looking for an on-prem solution, we will have some costs about the servers. So this is also another component for the cost of ownership issue. So another issue for the ROI are the integration capabilities. And in my first answer, I mentioned also the customization issues. So if we get some tangible outcomes for these components, we can calculate the ROI inherently, actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask the same question to Alper. Like, what would you do? Would you go build your own Ferrari, or would you actually go to Ferrari?
That's the best example that we can have in this call. Like Doruk mentioned, I'm also into cars, so I will continue on with the Ferrari example. So thank you very much for the input, Doruk. I will combine some of your thoughts, I believe. So even though you're in a Ferrari dealership, you need to do a test ride before you decide to buy. So you might not fit in the car at all. So maybe the maintenance cost will be too high for your expectations, and there will be so many complications on the road that you might face. So doing a proof of concept, like before investing in a solution, also help you to calculate the ROI in advance, at least at a good assumption. So depending on your use cases, you need to ensure there won't be any extra costs in the run. So at the first place, you need to define your goals. Then in the POC, you can test whether you can have these goals live with the product that you have selected or not. So here in Storyly, we value the trial process, and our engagement team does a comprehensive planning with our clients end to end. So in this planning, they are including what they shall target for their initial trial, what they can see in this process, what they cannot see in this process, because it's a limited time for for the POC. What should be the KPI? Because without defining all of these, if you start with the trial, you might end up with non-measurable outcomes. So you need to first define these rule sets to measure your ROI beforehand. So the POC is also a great way to gain insights, to justify the buy decision internally. So in that process, you also get involved with the conversation with the support team, with the account management team, so that you can sense how they approach to you and how solution oriented they are. These are also important factors while making a decision on a product. So for one of our clients, Domino's, they were ROI positive in the POC process. So it was very self-selling experience for us as well. So after the first week, it was easy to justify the purchase from their end so that they can proceed with the sale afterwards. So the POC process was successful for us, so that they, even without finishing the POC process, they went live with our product. So yeah, in order to combine what Doruk mentioned, I would say the POC, making some proof of concept before buying is one of the vital things that you can do.
Yeah.
And additionally, Alper, the POC scope is another crucial point. Some clients may not be aware of the POC scope. What is the success? What does success mean? For example, what are we aiming for? Aiming with these POCs? These questions also shall be answered before starting the POC. Actually, so
yeah, totally agree with you.
Yeah, so not everyone has that experience with creating the POC as well. I mean, I know we're talking about technology, but I think it should be applicable to all dimensions when we're going into this. Yeah, so let's continue with the Ferrari example. I don't know, maybe one day we're all gonna have Ferraris after this call. So let's say we have the Ferrari. We went to the Ferrari dealership, we got the car, and I want to customize it. There's a need for customization. So each marketeer, each person, regardless of this marketing ecosystem, there's always a need for customization, whether it's a car or whether it's a platform, because the needs of the consumer changes so fast with technology and everything going on at the moment. So I want to get your opinion on when it comes to customization. So can I get your answers on building or buying the MarTech solutions when the need for customization comes in? How would your view change with customization? Let's start with Doruk.
Okay, Alper, if it is okay, I'm starting.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, Elvin, about the customization issue, you make an excellent point, actually, because it's always a challenge, especially for the vendors, I think. But also, in this line, we shouldn't say customization always means building something in-house. Some tools are scalable and responsive for this kind of needs. But the question also, if we make one step back, the question also should be asked to that need. If it is really an advantage for the competition. In other words, is it meeting a differentiation strategy? So should we prioritize this customization or not? If it is nice to have, for example, if this customization need is a nice to have issue, actually we can say that do not apply for any customization issue. We can move with the current or existing solution. We can say that. But if this customization brings up some competitive advantage, and also if it is a cost-effective and efficient pattern, yes, we can say move with the customization. If you cannot find any solution in the market, you can start building in-house. Maybe in the future, you can make a spin-off for this solution and you can set up a new business line. But first of all, as I mentioned in the beginning, in a nutshell, I can say the question should be, are you differentiating something or not? Is it nice to have or not? So if we have good answers about this, if in terms of ROI and competitive edge, yes, we can. It means we can strike a balance between competitiveness and the customization issue.
Okay, perfect. Alper, can I get your views as well?
Yeah, I would be happy to input. So as Doruk mentioned, like if this new feature is an addition to your main focus, like if it's a differentiator for your product overall, yes, you can also consider the building it by yourself and maybe customize it afterwards. In that point, I would like to underline this, but you need to do your research well, because most of the products out there, specifically for the MarTech vertical, there are a product of hundreds and thousands of software development lifecycle. So these lifecycle includes the requirement gathering, design, coding, testing, deployment, and maintenance afterwards. So if you decide to build something, you need to allocate some of your development load and the budget into this project specifically. And afterwards, although we haven't considered customization yet, look how much effort you need to put into it, like to build such a product. So of course, there are so many solutions, and there are some solutions that also which are flexible enough to meet your customization requirements. We might be one of those as well. So in Storyly, we aim to like keep our update cycle on a bi-weekly basis, so that every 2 weeks we are either fixing the code, either testing something new, or like bringing out new features. So that's another topic that we can discuss as well, time to market. So since our main focus as a Storyly is on this, we are very fast pacing on like constraining the development workload. So if you put your 100% of focus on a single product as a company, if you would like to consider this with an in-house solution, then you might need to think whether you can put the same amount of effort, same amount of your budget, the workload allocation. So since the resource might be limited in those cases, it might not be the best decision to go with like building in-house. But of course, if, again, as Doruk mentioned, if it's an additive to your the product, if it's applying a new areas for your product, of course, you can also consider building the customization solution for your product by yourself.
Okay, so I want to continue on that line. So you mentioned about being fast-paced company as Storyly. So like one of the most important topics of our times is being agile, both in terms of product and in terms of human resources. And it's like in this fast-paced world, when you build an in-house solution, like, can you keep up with this agility and ever-changing technology? Even if your digital maturity is high, can you just elaborate on, how to keep up with this ever-changing pace of technology and agility?
I believe I can start.
Yeah, no,
So,
I actually wanted to continue the conversation.
all right. Thank you so much, Elvin. So yeah, as you mentioned, even though your digital maturity is high, your main focus might not be the specific solution that you are looking for. Like again, it's related what it will add to your product at the end. So in that case, companies need to consider the experience and the expertise of the third-party vendors, because those third-party vendors are mainly focusing on the problems that you are trying to solve among many problems that you have on your hand. So it will answer only one of your questions, but since you have hundreds of those questions, it might not be the most feasible way to go in and answer that question by yourself. So if you decide to do something like a solution in-house, you will have to take a portion of your engineering team and make them a dedication team for this product only. And then it becomes your product that you need to own. You need to maintain and develop further, because there will be questions and feature requests coming from your in-house maybe colleagues, because the consumer is experiencing a different experience every time, every day they got into the application, and their expectation is changing on a daily basis. So in order to keep up with those expectations, you need to be fast, and you need to like put your main focus into it to keep up with this environment. So again, it's important to consider the potential challenges and the trade-offs.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, that's a great point. Elvin, we're gonna continue.
Please.
Because in the level of customization, we can say the high level of customization is the most attractive or sexiest feature of in-house solutions, because the business would like to own something, okay, and they would like to have a greater control. But as Alper mentioned in his example, it is coming up with some new challenges. What are they? Maintenance. You need to maintain. I'm talking about the solution. Besides your business, you need to maintain these solutions' digital maturity level also, and also you need to keep up fighting with the pace of change in the customer needs, in the competitive edge, etc. So how can we figure out this, and how can we fight with this? If we are holding an in-house solution, we need to continually invest in development and updates to change in these kind of needs or technological infrastructure, And it's not logical actually for all organizations. Not all organizations can figure out this issue, and it's, in other words, it's not feasible for everyone. So in another point, if I would like to add, actually about the as you mentioned, Elvin, in the question also, accessing to the accumulated experience, because the vendors are holding a diverse experience, because they are like solution hubs, and they have a wealth of expertise and experience and know-how, and they gained it from the actual cases with the clients and across different industries. So this is another topic. And if we go back, to the Ferrari question, validation and verification of the quality to the outcome is another requirement. How can we know this output is a Ferrari or not? It can have wheels, it can move, but it can be a bicycle, How can we know, and how can we be aware of this issue? So in the long-term issue, if we are looking for a business-wise outcome, actually we need to be open to explore new technologies and solutions. And not every time we will have the most updated know-how or most updated outcomes. So in order to be updated and in order to keep fighting with these changes, we need solution partners. We need vendors in the ecosystem, actually.
Yeah, that brings me back to my last question. So because guys, we're kind of running out of time, but I have one more question that I really want to ask you before we finish this session. So both of you have mentioned the importance about vendors, obviously, when we outsource MarTech. And we've all been in demo calls when a vendor comes and talks about their competitive product, which is the best product of all. Like in your opinion, I mean, is there a manual in like picking up the best vendor? Or how can you separate the good from the bad? Like with all the experience both of you guys have, what would your last words be to our audience?
Alper, if you want, I can start with this question.
Please.
Actually, Elvin, that's also another motivation why I moved to the advisory line in the MarTech scope. Because in the business line, we would like to, we needed actually trust point, and we need a validation for our decision. Because every vendors are claiming they have the best product and they have the best solution, etc. So how can we know is it real or not? So how can we separate good from bad? That's an issue, actually. That's the case. That's the problem that we need to solve also. First of all, Alper mentioned about the research issues. Yes, that's really important. We need to make a research about the vendor's reputation and their track record in their portfolio. Who are they working with? Which companies are they serving? And what are their testimonials, case studies, reviews in G2, Gartners, these kind of independent companies or platforms we need to apply. Also, we need to apply to some advisor services or etc. For the independent decision-making process. And also, while talking about the customer satisfaction, I do not want to miss out the support issues, because in the customer service or technical support or success management, which is including not only support, it's also including the business-wise solution outcomes, solution sets. These are another noteworthy considerations, actually, because while we are setting up the solution, if you are working with if you are buying a third-party solution, we need a good documentation. We will need a good training on the dashboards for the user adaptation in our business lines, and SLAs and response rates for our questions, etc. So, while also in my previous answer I mentioned about this cost of ownership. While talking about and while calculating the cost of ownership, actually we need to be aware of their costs. Components, and in parallel with our expectations, we need to calculate the ROI efficiently. So, as a summary, I can say, then I'm passing it to Alper. We need to focus on our needs and goals, and we need to make our research. We need to apply to the independent organizations or advisors, and also we need to consider the costs. And also in parallel with this ROI, and if we follow this pattern, actually, Elvin, we can say that we are able to separate good from bad. And
you have the winning formula for the audience.
We can say.
Okay, thank you.
Alper, I'm passing it to you.
Thank you, Doruk. On top of what Doruk mentioned, he also included some of my answers as well, like reviews, case studies, customer testimonials. These are must to look at documents before making the buy decision. On top of that, I appreciate the challenging questions on the calls, because if a customer is asking challenging questions, you can understand that they are trying to invest on the solution with their time. So if I were a customer, I would try to understand the product that I would like to buy end to end, as just like I'm building this up. That way, I can have the better visibility over the product itself. Also, in one day, if I try to build the same, I will have the knowledge base ready in my hand as well. So yeah, these are the main topics that I can look at. Also, I would like to underline this again in the calls that we get into the with the product team or customer engagement team, with account management team. You need to somehow measure how experienced and how responsive the team that you are working with. Because without a team that you are working with, you only pay for a product. You don't get the results from that. So team is also an important factor, in my opinion.
That's the most, that's the hardest thing to measure. Like, you can measure everything, but like human resources return on investment it might be the toughest problem of all. Yeah. So guys, thank you so much. We have run a bit out of our time, but I had to ask these questions because I had this flow, and I think overall we did answer some of main questions that people have when they want to decide whether to buy or invest in MarTech. So thank you, Alper, thank you, Doruk, and thank you, the Story team, for providing us with this opportunity. So we have come to the end of our webinar, and I believe this webinar is recorded and will be on YouTube and as well as podcast. So thank you all for being with us, and please feel free to reach out to us via LinkedIn if you guys have any questions about MarTech or MMA or any of our expertises. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks
all.
for
Bye.
your great moderation.
Thank you.